Hey guys, Dan Garner, strength coach and nutrition specialist here. Now, what kind of creatine should we be taking? There's a lot of old school basics and there's a lot of new school good ones. And most people are familiar with creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate is without a doubt the most researched creatine that we have in existence. It's one of the most researched supplements that we have in existence, which brings a lot of confidence to the situation because there's a real difference between, and I'm sure you can level with me here, there's a real difference between a research consensus and a research study. You can find a research study to benefit almost anything, but that's very different from a research consensus. A research consensus, on the other hand, is a compilation of hundreds of studies and what consensus we can develop from all those studies and all the results that they gathered. So when we have something as well researched as creatine monohydrate, we have a lot to look at in comparison to some of these other creatines that maybe don't have as much research and might not be as beneficial. So let's talk about that a little bit. Yager et al. Did a crossover design that measured plasma concentrations of creatine across creatine, tricreatine citrate, creatine pyruvate, and creatine monohydrate, and found no differences between all three. And creatine monohydrate is much cheaper than those, so we'll leave those out of the equation for now. Presentations at the ISSN actually had shown that crealkaline compared to creatine monohydrate, there was no difference in its ability to be broken down in the stomach and absorbed into the muscle afterwards. And this is kind of funny because crealkaline is kind of marketed as this alkalized creatine that can bypass the acidity. You don't bypass acidity. It's dropping literally into a pool of acid. This really doesn't happen. So after the research was conducted there, no difference between crealkaline or creatine monohydrate either. So we're moving on again, and the same research that was actually done by Talon and Child, but Talon and Child also demonstrated that creatine ethyl ester degraded even more than creatine monohydrate in the stomach, and creatine monohydrate was left almost completely untouched. So big differences there. Creatine monohydrate has already wiped out about 4 different creatines at this point in time when we're looking at the body of research and not just one single study at a time. But let's just take a step back from all that. Creatine monohydrate in research has beat creatine pyruvate, tricreatine citrate, crealkaline, and creatine ethyl ester. But even if all those worked, there is no ultimate creatine. The supplement companies are always trying to come up with breakthroughs and new ideas and trying to create the ultimate creatine, but why? It doesn't actually change tissue storage. Creatine, when it's maximally stored, can store 160 millimoles per kilogram of dry weight in the body. That's not going to change if it's ethyl ester, if it's crealkaline, if it's creatine monohydrate, if it's creatine pyruvate, if it's any creatine you can mention. Creatine is creatine. These are just delivery pathways that it's going through. But once you've hit your maximal saturation, so after your loading phase, that's what's actually benefiting you from a creatine standpoint. It's not the actual creatine itself. It's the saturation of the muscle cell that's benefiting you. So whether it's creatine monohydrate or another creatine that gets you to that saturation, that's what's getting you the benefit. Once you're at 160 millimoles per kilogram of dry weight, that's what we want. And creatine monohydrate will get you there at a fraction of the price as anything and everything else. So there is really no ultimate creatine because saturation is what determines your benefit. And when it comes to loading and unloading, so you don't have to load either. Loading is exclusively a time-based situation. So research has demonstrated loading with only 3 grams of creatine monohydrate taken for 30 days. You can do it that route, 3 grams per day, done. Research has also shown 20 grams taken every single day for 5 to 7 days will get you saturation much quicker. Now, it's not going to give you more saturation than the slower, longer route. It's just going to get you faster saturation. So if you're a fighter and you have a fight camp and you're 6 weeks out from a fight and you want to start training now, yeah, we're going to load you because you're going to get saturated sooner than a month. I don't want to wait a month to get your performance up. But if you don't have any time constraints at all, you don't need to do the whole loading thing. It's not going to benefit you compared to not loading. So whatever fits your current context is what's going to be best for you, and whatever you want to do and accomplish within your goals is going to be what's best for you. No benefit between going through the two except a time-based situation. Creatine is really just a good example of the supplement industry trying to make something better that's already good. We don't need creatine monohydrate is without a doubt still the king creatine at this point in time. That's what we do know. And that's the one that we should be taking because it's also about $20 for a full kilogram compared to other sources which are incredibly more expensive. So when these new things keep coming out, this is what I'm going to leave you with. When these new things keep coming out, have a look at the research and see if it backs it up. But if you're not a research person, give it 6+ years. All of your results are typically coming from training and food anyways, and the way in which you manipulate your training and food. You give a new supplement 6+ years, if it's still around and people are still saying some awesome things about it, odds are it's probably worth a shot. But most supplements come and go within a year. And I know you can level with me again here that a pre-workout will be here today and gone tomorrow. A creatine will be here today, gone tomorrow. Same with protein. This happens. And that's because it doesn't work. So if it's been around a long time, odds are it might be worth a shot. But what we know right now is creatine is still the king of creatines. Thanks for watching, guys.